Good evening, and welcome to LuvSA. I am your host, Pastor Strike, and I'm so excited this evening because I have my wonderful guests on the program. Tonight, we're looking at, we have a great future. And saying that, I must say, as a nation, as we close the Youth Month, of course, the sad news is that we lost precious lives in our young people, and may their souls rest in peace and may their families be comforted. You know, it's Dr. Ben Carson who said, as a neurosurgeon, he said, when I operate on an elderly person and the operation goes successful, I rejoice, I'm excited. But when I operate on, you remember, he's one of the neurosurgeons who was first in separating co-joint twins, you know, and he said, if I conduct or if I do an operation on a child and they survive, I am so excited. Why? Because he says it's an investment of another 40, 50, 60 years. But with an elderly person, he says, you know, even though I'm excited that it went well, but the truth is that they are going to die sooner than later out of other conditions. It may not be exactly what they were sick of, but because they are old, there are lots of opportunistic conditions that can put them down. So every time we lose young people, I must be honest, it's a painful thing. And that is why it's so sad as we close the Youth Month to learn of the passing on of young people, great future, great minds. But tonight, we're here because we believe in being hopeful. We encouraging each other because we believe all is not lost. And one thing that I also believe is when we talk about LuvSA, which is the NEHEMIAH phenomenon, we are saying, let us arise and build, because otherwise we might find ourselves not having a South Africa to pass on. Tonight, I have my wonderful guests, and of course, we have Prof. Nguchane. And Prof, we appreciate him, you know, out of his hectic schedule. Today he came to be with us and to be with the young men, because I have a team of young men today who are energetic and who have something to share with us. You know, when I look at Prof and look at him in June 1676, he is one of the young people then who wrote a letter to the Minister of Education. I'm telling you, as a young man. And that is why when we talk of young people today, Prof understands them very well. And he knows the energy, he knows the power, he knows what a young person carries. And that is why today I brought this young man to just sit around the table with our dad, Prof Enos, so that he pumps life and he encourages them and lifts them up. That is why I would love to take this time and say good evening, Prof, and welcome to LuvSA.
Good evening, Pastor Strike, and good evening to our panelists. I'm so happy that we have the young panelists this evening. I'm sure we are going to have an interesting discussion. Thank you very much.
Thanks so very much, Prof. I have 4 young men, Prof, and I just love these young men. Over the weekend, we attended an event by Hope Givers Foundation. They have a project raising legends, and they honored these young men as legends. You know, we have young legends. And it's in that event where I was also honored, and I really appreciate the honor, even though I receive it with humility and understanding that it's an assignment that they are giving to me to say, you're turning gray hair. What are you doing? What have you done? What are you going to do? And that is why I thought today, before the next weekend, it's important for me to bring these young legends and have them encouraged. That is why tonight, Prof, I'm going to let these young legends introduce themselves, tell us exactly what they do and what they've been doing to be shakers and movers, more especially because they are young men. We're also looking at gender-based violence, and the raising legend and project is also looking at that can we raise a generation of young men who will respect, who will honor, and who will not violate women or children, who will take responsibility of their lives. So I have them today here, and the first one that I want to introduce, and in fact, I'm not introducing, I'm just giving him the platform for him to introduce himself. And guys, I would love for you to introduce yourself fully so, because I want Prof to hear what you're doing so that when he starts coaching us and encouraging us, because, you know, he's very passionate about the youth of 2022. Looking at, he comes as the youth of 76, you know, the youth that stood up and the youth that made sure that today we can study different subjects, not only in Afrikaans, because many people do not understand this. They think when we talk about them fighting Afrikaans as a medium of instruction, that is even maths. I remember maths was taught in Afrikaans. Every other subject will be taught in Afrikaans. And guys, where do we go with Afrikaans? Because Afrikaans is spoken only in South Africa. So we must understand that the June 1676, they were fighting a just cause. And that is why today we are where we are. Without any waste of time, I want to give my first young legend to introduce himself, and that is Mhluri Sambo. Good evening, Mhluri.
Good evening, and I'd like to greet everyone who has tuned in to LuvSA. So my name is Mhluri Sambo, and I am the award-winning author of the book titled Infinite Teen. It's an African award-winning book, and I'm also a motivational speaker. I'm a public speaker, and I have done many television interviews and many radio interviews to those who might have seen me. Currently, I am a United Nations ambassador, youth ambassador, and I've represented South Africa at Turkey in March, and last month in May, I represented South Africa in another international conference at Dubai. And currently, next month, I'll be releasing my second book, Rethinking Black Consciousness, and I'll also be representing South Africa again in another international conference at New York. So in a nutshell, that is who I am. I'm Mhluri Sambo, also known as Mr. Infinite, 20-year-old.
20-year-old, that's what I wanted to ask. How old are you, man, and what are you doing when it comes to your academic pursuits? What are you doing?
Currently, I am a second-year student at the University of Johannesburg, and I'm studying Bachelor of Arts in Humanities, majoring in Development Studies, and my sub-major is Sociology.
Thank you, Prof. There's one of your sons, but let me bring another one. Mr. Tabang Matuka, our professional sportsman. Good evening, sir. Unmute your mic, Mr. Tabang. Just unmute your mic. It's still muted. Thank you.
Good evening, Prof. Good evening, Pastor, and good evening to my fellow rising legends. My name is, and everybody who's tuned in, my name is Tabang Matuka. I'm a former professional player in the PSL of Bloemfontein Celtic, Maritzburg United, Free State Stars, and Bidvest. I've represented my country at under 20 and under 23 national team levels.
Ratabang, if you could come a little bit closer, come a little bit closer to your gadget, because your sound goes up and down. Yes, so that at least we hear you clearly. Thank you. Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, you are clear now.
Yes. Let me start from the beginning. My name is Tabang Matuka. I'm 33 years old. I'm born and bred in Bloemfontein in the Free State. I'm a former PSL football professional, and I played for Maritzburg United, Bloemfontein Celtic, Bidvest, and Free State Stars. I also represented the national team at under 20 and under 23 level. I recently plied my trade in Spain for 2 years, where I was a player and coach. I currently I came back to the country and saw the deficit in terms of our development, especially for our kids. So I run a skills development program. I am a director of Thabang Kalarato Foundation, and it runs a skills development program from the ages of 5 years to the ages of 18 years. I also registered a club called Colorado FC. So the club will be taking boys from the ages of 14 years to the ages of 19 to Spain in September to my former club from the 29th of September till the 9th of October. And the next year we'll be participating again in a cup in Sweden in July called the Gothia Cup. I've also arranged a trip to the UK, and I'm also trying to expand into rugby, of which we've got an invitation to France next year in May for boys under 14 and under 16.
Wow. Wow. Thank you, Brother Tabang. You guys are making it. You guys are really, I must be honest, you're blowing me. Sometimes, you know, I get concerned, more especially when I look at soccer players, very good players who will play until their season closes. And we don't hear about them anymore. But it's so encouraging to see a young man like yourself getting into development, saying to young boys from age 5, boys, here are my shoulders, see further and be smarter. Thank you so very much. I don't want to say much because we have our dad here, Prof. Enos, and he's listening to us all, and he's going to be coaching us, and we're going to engage tonight. And I'd love to call upon my brother, my friend, Lindo. If you could unmute your mic, Lindo, and yeah, thank you. Welcome, man. Is it possible for you to unmute also your video? You know, you know, it's good for us to see you. Is it possible? But if it's not possible because of load shedding, no problem. Welcome, Lindo. Lindo.
Loading, I doubt you're seeing. Yes.
Can you hear me, Lindo?
Yes, I.
Thank you so very much, man. Welcome. And if you could introduce yourself, tell us exactly what you are doing, and tell us your age, tell us your, you know, your academics, your academic levels and all that. Hi, Lindo. Lindo, you know, we understand we're battling with load shedding, but while we're waiting for Lindo to settle things, I would love to now welcome Zwake Mahlangu. Baba, Ndabesita. Good evening, Mr. Mahlangu.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mfundisi, and our colleagues of panelists.
Yes, Baba Mahlangu, if you could tell us what you're doing. You know, I can see your audio is a little bit jacking, but if you can try it again and just tell us who you are, what you're doing, we'll appreciate that.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's also greet our viewers in different areas where they are watching us and those that are listening at us. My name is Zwake Mahlangu, and I'm 35 years old. I'm the founder of Elevate to Another Dimension that works in various programs in various communities. It was founded in 2015, and up to so far, we are assisting learners after they've passed their matric, because we believe, and from where we come from, we believe that there are some of those that are coming from disadvantaged, and those that are coming from those areas that they do not afford financially to further their studies in tertiary institutions. And we also running programs with traditional councils, and as the program that we have piloted this year, where we were training the initiates and giving them guidance on how to become and to uphold, and also how should they behave and how should they conduct themselves when they coming back from the initiation schools. Those were the programs that we piloted this year. We also doing programs, tree planting programs. We also have about 50 families in our organization that we are taking care of them, child-headed households, majority of the families that we are assisting. And by profession, I'm a civil engineer. I'm currently working on the program that was initiated by the Minister of Education, Minister Njimuteha, and the President, the Honorable President Cyril Ramaphosa. We are eradicating all the pit latrine toilets in South Africa, which we are hoping that with the Vision 2030, the National Development Plan, when we get to 2030, we will no longer have those deep pit toilets in all our schools, as we can remember the incidents that happened, and they started in Limpopo where pupils were falling in the pits. And we are trying to get rid of those and eradicate those incidents, that we don't encounter and we don't come across such incidents beyond 2030.
You know, Mr. Mahlangu, one thing that always fascinates me with your project is going to initiation schools and talking to boys, training boys. Man, that is something powerful. And I hope you will share with us some of the achievements or some of the good news that came out of all that. And we just appreciate you. I see Lindo is battling with connectivity, and we understand. Prof. Lindo is a young man who is also very much involved in his community, and he is a grade 11 learner. The way he's so involved is so amazing in the issue of security, in the issue of the rights of children, and it's just amazing. And I hope he will be able to come back and be with us. And I would love to also take this time and say to Manhlami, thank you so very much, Mama, for being here. Thank you, Kubame Lekete. We really appreciate it. And hey, no. You know, my mom-in-law will always say, bless you, Mama. Prof, here are your sons this evening. You remember when we postponed our show because of electrical issues, we were looking at bringing the youth of 2022 after we had spoken with the youth of 1976. We're saying tonight the future is great because of this crop of young men, but I would love you to engage them, starting by maybe sharing a little bit of the experience of 76. If these young people, these young men are really representing what you fought for and what you desired to see, and what wisdom or what would you love to advise them as we journey even in a show like this tonight? Over to you, Prof, and thank you once more for availing yourself to speak to us as a nation and as young men.
Pastor, thank you very much for this opportunity that I have tonight, really, to listen to all these wonderful young people who are involved in different activities. I think I need to also start by greeting, our viewership, and thank them for participating in this program. It is so interesting and encouraging, really, to listen to the young ones this evening, to all of them, ranging from Mhluri, Abang, and all the way to Umzwak. These are young people who are playing a very important role in their own communities. It just gives me pleasure to know that we have this caliber of the young people who are focused, who want to achieve as individuals, who are also committed in making sure that we achieve as South Africa and as a nation. I'm so excited. Let me start from where we came from, you know, as a class of 76. We operated under difficult conditions when we still had an oppressive regime in this country, a regime that never cared about a black child, a regime that never cared about us as black people in this country. It was just a regime that was ready to exploit. It was ready to kill when challenged. But we made it a point that as a class of 76, we were not going to sit down and keep quiet and fold our arms and allow the regime to take us for granted. Therefore, as this class of 76, we were courageous, we were organized, we were brave, we were disciplined, and we were focused as well. And at the same time, united around a common purpose. The purpose being to make it a point that we liberate this country. Yes, Afrikaans was one of those minor tickling issues that we had to address and confront. But the total approach was to make sure that there's democracy in this country. Each and every individual who's a South African, who belongs to this country, enjoys the fruit of our forefathers. Therefore, as the youth, we said to ourselves, this is what we want to achieve. Not long ago, I was talking about our university in Wegerspreid. Most people said, no, but there was no university in Wegerspreid. But we had a facility there that we use as the young people of this country, where we mobilized the youth around South Africa to come in, talk about a number of issues, ranging from the education itself, issues of Black consciousness. I'm happy that one of the young guys is busy reclaiming that space and writing about rethinking Black consciousness. And that's where we come from, right? Black consciousness is the one that modeled us. We were socialized around Black consciousness. And at that time, there was also a discussion around the issue of liberation theology. I was telling some of the young people about the role of the church in this country in making a point that we are liberated, we are enjoying this democracy today. The church played a very important role, right? We started as a student Christian movement. We joined some of the Christian youth clubs, the Youth Alive in Dube, the young Christian ambassadors in White City, Jabavu, Teen Outreach or Teen Challenge in Naledi, where both myself and Pastor Frank Chikana were members. So you can see that the church was vibrant and it really played an important role in making a point that it pushes the issues of liberation theology. Because liberation theology, Pastor, was focused on poverty, right, and repression. And at that time, we had a repressive government, right, that was oppressing our people. And therefore, liberation theology came in handy in making a point that it unites us as the youth so that we are focused in making a point that we challenge the regime. So to the youth of today, we are saying, take example from the class of 1976. We know that you are confronting different challenges of poverty, inequality, unemployment, issues of drug abuse in some of our societies. There are issues of alcoholism. There are issues of lack of student accommodation, which is a serious problem as well in this country that we still need to address. I'm happy that Umzwake talked about the issue of pit toilets as well. 28 years into democracy, we're still talking about pit toilets. It's a shame. It's a shame. Therefore, we need to make it a point that young people address these issues. I was even saying not long ago to some of the young people, the system of education that we have today is not what we fought for, right? If we look at where we come from, Pastor, in terms of our ministers of education, we started with Sibusiso Bengu, came Kada Asma, came Naledi Pando, now we are sitting with Enji Muchecha. And all these ministers have been sort of gerrymandering with education. One came as outcome-based education. Today they are talking about PEPS, which is curriculum assessment policy statement, all confusion, right? All confusion that does not take us anywhere. We sit with the type of education that produces job seekers, the type of education that does not produce entrepreneurs, right? Who are able to fit into the society, right? Produce actuaries, right? Financial analysts, right? Doctors, lawyers, right? A lot of those, technical skills as well at that lowest level that would assist our economy to move forward. But this education that we have today is not even geared to what's providing those skills. Where have you seen a minister who would come out and say, if we can do away with maths and English, then our results are going to be good? She's not concerned about the quality of education. She's just concerned about numbers, right? So the issue of our education is still a problem. And therefore, we need to continue addressing it, as Umzwake indicated as well. We also thank our youth that are busy writing, because we need to document some of these things. I'm happy that you guys are also representing us out there in the United Arab Emirates and other countries. I'm happy to see the youth that is playing an important role in sports. As you know, sports is a very important cultural weapon, right? That we also used in the past to isolate the regime of apartheid, okay? We used it effectively. There was a cultural boycott to say South Africa cannot play anywhere in the world. And we achieved that. There were sanctions against the regime. But today we are saying, let's open those areas where our skills, where our young people can go out and apply their skills, whether it's in football, in tennis, in rugby, in swimming, and you name it, in all those sporting codes. So we need to be active as the youth in making a point that we also build social cohesion in our society, right? The issues that Zwake was addressing, I'm happy with those, issues of pit toilets, talking to those who are coming out of Komeng, Ribisa Komeng, Pela rona ko Bushbuck Ridge.
Komeng.
Hey, Hausa Komeng Barul Shubur, So we need to address those as well. That all those young boys who are coming out of initiation schools, we talked to them, they are empowered, right? They form part and parcel of the society. We talk about all these issues of Ugutwala, you know about that, right? Where girls are being carried, taken away from their parents forcefully, okay? Those are the issues we need to address as well in terms of talking about social cohesion and community development where we are. Thank you very much, Pastor. Let me stop here.
Prof, thank you so very much. I would love to take this time, gentlemen. Prof has spoken, and as a father, are there some questions you'd love to ask from him? Some clarity, you know, even as he took us through the youth of 1976, what they stood for, what they fought for. One thing that he still says, the education they fought for is not the education we have now. More especially when we look at the output, it produces job seekers. And I'm happy that you guys somehow you defying that, you fighting that. That's why you're rising up, you're doing things at an early age, and like what Thabang is doing, you know, making sure that in the area of sport, there's grooming. One other thing that I think cripples also our national squad as South Africa. Most of our soccer players in our big teams, they are not South Africans. So when it comes to the national squad, they don't contribute to the national squad because there's not maybe that focus and really hard work when it comes to development. You know, one of the men that we have seen him picking up people from rural communities and have them become great stars is Mr. Jomoson. He did very well over the years, but we believe there's talent out there. But I would love to say to you, Muthluri, to Mzwake, to also Thabang, what would you love to ask Prof tonight? What is it that you'd love to hear from him? You are a youth. You are youth today, guys, and I'm proud of you because of what you are doing. But you know, Prof sits here today as a father to us, and he has been that youth, you know, and maybe even before I let you ask and anything, Prof, could you please tell us a little bit about your action, boldness of writing the letter to the Minister of Education then, as a young person, and a little bit of the content of the letter, you know, because it's another thing to throw a stone from a distance, but you went all out. And I think that history made that one of the young people wrote a letter to the minister. If you could take us through that, Prof, before I let our young legends engage with you and engage with us tonight.
Thank you very much, Pastor, for that question. Those days were difficult days. When you opened the floor, you talked about the imposition of Afrikaans as a fraction in our school. Of course, that came as a shock to us as a class of 1976. We were not really prepared to be taught in Afrikaans. As you indicated, that all those subjects that we had to undertake at secondary schools and high schools were to be taught in Afrikaans. And therefore, that imposition of a language which was not even our first language, not even second language, came to us as a serious threat, a threat where we could see the doors of learning just shutting up in front of us. I remember that particular day I went home. I was just about to give up everything. I could see that there is no possibility for me to continue with education. Therefore, I must just forget. But an idea came and said, but somebody is responsible for imposing, Afrikaans in our schools. Who is that? And I said, oh, yes, there is this Minister of Bantu Education, MC Board. Yes. And I sat down, therefore, scribbled a few words where I indicated the difficulty that we are going to be facing as young children in black schools. That Afrikaans is not our first language, It is not our second language. Why are you enforcing Afrikaans as a medium of instruction in our schools? Our teachers are finding it difficult to handle the language itself. What are you trying to achieve? I expected a simple response from a minister who's responsible. But he sent police to come and arrest me. Overnight, I was no longer this innocent student. I was a criminal just because I've written a letter that is challenging the policy of the apartheid regime. Thank you, Pastor.
Yeah. Thanks, Prof. Thanks, Prof. You know, yeah. Guys, Prof has spoken, and I would love for you, any question, anything that you would love to ask Prof. I must be honest, today, guys, you are able to study, even though the system that we embrace as a country is not exactly what they envisaged or what they expected, you know, like you had Prof saying. Can you imagine the minister saying, if we can do away with maths and English, we'll have better results? Well, what results are we talking about? Honestly, what results are we talking about? And you can see that there's a high level of ignorance, unfortunately, and which is genocide to the nation, you know. But you guys are rising up, and you guys must bring the change that we would love to see. Any question to Prof? Any comment? What would you love to say? And maybe for the benefit that we're together here in studio, Tori, if you could start.
All right. Prof said a mouthful. I have to acknowledge that. And then now, before I ask my question, which is basically a very difficult question to compose, I'd like to start by a comment. The contents and that Prof has been sharing a lot, I've actually started, they are actually some of the materials that I included in my upcoming book, Rethinking Black Consciousness. So just to basically give you an overview, the Rethinking Black Consciousness looks into decolonization of South Africa. So I argue that we are not necessarily decolonized. We are just a sub-imperial country of the West. So I believe that we are oppressed via media, education, religion, and the other two is alcohol and politics. So Prof has touched a lot about what I wrote about in education. So I studied the works of Dr. Mushalika, a Zambian professor, and he has made a statement that what we have is not, in Africa, is not education at large. So what we have is rote learning education. And this is the type of education where we are basically trained to memorize whatever it is, whatever contents that we are taught, and to impart them onto the exam sheets. So basically from the ages of from grade 1 up to the end of varsity, we just learn to cram and to write the facts. And that trains us to be memorizers and employees. We are not given an education that industrializes or no education that basically benefits us towards becoming entrepreneurs or even, I believe, in charge of the industry. So it's education that standardizes us and keeps us at the bottom of the food chain and keeps the former colonizers at the top of the food chain, which is not education. And it's something that we have to fight against. And that is something that I must acknowledge from what Prof has touched on. And it is a very big issue because we are not moving ahead as the South African youth. And then also by the liberation theology, I believe it is a very important matter that needs to be addressed in South Africa, because right now we are oppressed via religion. So in the Black communities, I believe that there are a lot of young people who are starting churches out of hunger and poverty. It's not a calling anymore. If, for example, I have the benefit of public speaking and I'm also well-versed spiritually. So if I don't get a job, I might just be tempted to just go open a church and, which is very detrimental, because right now what that does is it keeps the chains upon us. And we are not taught to be, basically religion does not liberate us. You know, in the Black community, on every corner, everyone is basically has a tent, which is a church. And in the middle of that community, there is a bottle store. That's the only business in Black communities. And now, how do we expect to basically grow and industrialize with such conditions? Whereas if we were to look at other communities, for example, Muslim communities, there is a business on every corner and a mosque in the middle. So we are not spiritually united, which is another problem because everyone is now using religion as a tool to oppress people. So we need to basically go back towards liberation theology, whereby I believe the government should also intervene and also basically like look at the licensing and not just basically allow anyone to just start a church or anything like that, because right now a lot of the people are misled, which is a serious matter that we as the youth also need to look into and not just allow to just take place. And then the question that I have is, I strongly, from what I've learned about the 1976 youth, and what really inspires me is the unity that took place. So the 1976 youth had a lot of unity, and if you study, if the way we
Sorry again. Thank you. Thank you so very much. Before Prof answers, we're sorry for that glitch. You know, with load shedding, sometimes we have challenges and you just see things going the other way. And Mthuri, if you don't mind, I'd love for you to rephrase the question, because when you were asking the question, that's when we lost connectivity. And then I think you have to, again, present your question to Prof. I think he had the background that you gave, but the question part, that's when we're losing the connectivity. If you could repeat it. Thank you.
Not a problem. So my question to Prof today is, with the 1976 youth, the 1976 youth had a monotonous movement. So they were united and they knew what the agenda, the vision, and the mission was. So the present youth, there are so many issues that we are faced with, but it seems as though there's a lot of hopelessness and a lot of giving up. It's as though we've thrown the towel and we've given ourselves to such things as alcohol, oppression, and so many other things. So how can we unite the youth, the present youth, to rise up and stand up in the same courage and the same grit to overthrow the oppressive techniques that are at hand?
Thank you so very much, Prof. I hope it was clear.
Yeah, thank you very much, Muturi. I think the question that you are raising is very important. The youth are our future leaders. Important for us given the necessary tools.
Prof, Sorry, Prof. It's like we're battling to hear you, Prof. I don't know. Maybe it's because we're at that glitch.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's better now.
Yes. What I was saying, Pastor, is that
Prof, Prof, we're losing you. I don't know. Maybe that glitch did something. We're battling so bad to hear you, Prof. Prof.
Let me just check what is happening on my side.
Okay, Prof. Thank you so very much. In the meantime, I would love to take this time and appreciate all of you, our viewers, watching us and even following us on Facebook and also on YouTube. Thank you so very much. And those of you who are following us on Bold Moves Radio, thank you so very much. You're listening to Bold Moves Radio. The program is called LuvSA, the Nehemiah phenomenon. And we all making sure that we're rising up and do something to build the South Africa that would love to hand over to the next generation. Today, we have Prof. Amos Inos Nguchane, who is the youth of June 76, a father, an academic, and a philosopher. You know, he's modeling and also encouraging us as the youth today of 2022. And we have young, vibrant young people who are also making waves and making sure that in their own corners, they are making a great difference. These are the youth that are also saying no to gender-based violence. That is why I say the future is great with young men of their caliber. You're listening to Bold Moves Radio, boldly breaking barriers and limitations, raising the flag of hope for an African child.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is. Streaming 24/7. 24/7.
Bold Moves Radio.
Bold Moves Radio.
Africa, nakupenda sana. Oh, Africa, nakupenda sana.
Yes, yes. Thank you so very much. Let's see if we can hear Prof now. Thanks, Prof. Welcome back.
Thank you very much, Pastor. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, Prof.
Okay. Msuri, I think your question is a very important question. As I was indicating that you, as the youth of today, you are the future leaders who must take this country forward. Our time has come. We have played our role. As you've indicated, the class is a class that was courageous, is a class that was brave, it's a class that was focused on where we're going. And we're also united in terms of the common purpose, because we're the regime that was oppressing us. And we saw this as an enemy, right? At the same time, we were the that was groomed to be respectful, right? Of our parents, of our teachers, of our leaders in the community. We were the visionaries at the time. No, we know where our parents came from with this regime. System. Encourage. As the youth that you guys are involved in. also the project Green hours.
Thanks so very much, Prof. Thanks so very much. Even though the sound is continuously challenging us, but we could pick up what Prof is saying, you know, one of which the unity, the respect, you know, understanding where our parents are, respect of parents, respect of teachers, which, you know, discipline becomes very much important if we have to build or if we have to achieve anything of greatness. I think it's very much important for the youth today to still mobilize each other. You know, like this platform, we are saying as the youth, guys, would you please come together? Will you please talk to others? Will you please talk to your brothers, talk to your sisters, so that there is a common goal? Because still there is a common enemy. You know, he might have changed the costumes, but is an enemy that is threatening the well-being, the progress, the future of the nation and the future of young people. Mr. Mahlangu Mzwake said, you heard Prof, and the Prof has shared very important information and encouraged us, and also answering Mutsuri's question. Any question, any comment, what would you love to ask Prof tonight, even as we journey in this journey? I would love to also say to my viewers and listeners, allow me to add at least 15 minutes on our scheduled time, so that we are able also to give our brother Tabang also to be able to ask and even share what thoughts he has, and then we'll round it up. Mr. Mahlangu say.
Thank you very much, Pastor. Prof has said a mouthful, very moving encouragement, very moving background of where we come from as the country, the unity they had, the courage they had in 1976. As you will listen to various speakers when they speak about the events that took place in 1976, you'll get goosebumps. As now Prof is talking and narrating all the things that they went through, you could even think of the courage that Prof had of taking an initiative of writing a letter to the then minister of a brutal regime. And it means they were unapologetic. They didn't miss any way. They didn't miss any action in dealing with the brutal system. You can imagine studying in mathematics. Our learners are struggling now with mathematics, as Umsure is saying and is mentioning the issue of decolonizing our education system. There are those learners, that came from the public schools, if I may put it that way, from our villages, where they are struggling even to understand other subjects in English. So you can imagine now they're struggling. As a country, we are facing a crisis of mathematics, where it was, I feel in my personal capacity, I feel that it was relegated when they even introduced other sort of mathematics and moving our children or moving our learners from pure math to math literacy, where it does not take them anywhere. So it is very painful. It is very, very, very painful. Prof, again, it's mentioning a critical point, the role of the church in those years for social cohesion and community development. The crisis that we face in Mfundisi today, it means the church in 1976, I will use the 1976, that last. It means the church, the pastors, they opened their doors. That is why we are having the likes of our Prof Ngujana. It's because Abu Baba of those years, they opened the church, they opened the door, they opened their arms for a boy child. They groomed the boy child.
Yes.
They did not sideline the boy child.
Yes.
And we can take it as men, even the Bible says, as men think it, so is he in his heart.
Yes.
So it means Abafundis of those years, in their heart, It was in their heart to groom the boy child and to see a boy child and to hold the boy child with the hand, fighting the entire system, in abolishing the entire system. So it means it was a collective effort in fighting the former regime, the brutal regime. Even now, Mfundisi, I don't miss a word when I talk of the brutal regime, because now they are looking down on our norms, they are looking down at our cultures, they are looking down to us as Africans. I was looking at other visuals where in foreign countries they are killing African people. And what are we doing as Africans? What are we saying as Africans? We understand that the issue of inequality, we understand the issue of education, because here in the country, you find an African child, they will be refused to enter in some of the shops, in some of the institutions, when they are on their African attire. But when you find other people in the foreign, or I will use like in the Arab, with their Arab attire, African prohibiting an African from entering in other institutions with African attire. So it means it's a problem. Umhluri is correct. So it's an issue that we need to look at, and we should take African customs very serious. So for social cohesion, and as Uprof says, we are guided and motivated by the 18 Sustainable Development Goals that were adopted by the United Nations, which number one goal is to get rid of poverty, zero to hunger, goal number 2. You name them: quality education, good health, and gender equality, clean water and sanitation in the country. When I talk about clean water and sanitation in the country, as those programs that are unfolding in getting rid of the toilets, so that I don't eat time, I spare time for Utabang when I wrap up. Now in Ukraine and Russia, there is a war. There is one crucial now resource that African country is running scarce of: the fertilizers. It is because of the developed countries, they're using the human waste to manufacture fertilizers, buying the entire Africa. So if our government can speedily deal with the sustainable goal number 6 of clean water and sanitation, we are not going to experience what we are going to experience. What we will do in South Africa and in Africa, South Africa is going to be the food basket of Africa and the globe at large. So in closure, Mfundisi, the NEHEMIAH phenomenon of raising a boy child. Uprof says the role of the church. I love when Uprof talks about the role of the church, because the church did not curse the boy child. What we find today, we find the church, we find the Bafundisi cursing the church, cursing the boy child. Where are we taking the boy child? I'm challenging the church Mfundisi. I'm challenging our Fundis as they are watching us on different platforms of bold moves, to say, let us encourage the boy child in the communities, in our communities, not looking of where they are coming from, not looking at the formation where they are coming from. Thank you, Mfundisi.
Thank you so very much. Thank you, Mzwakhe. You know, I take the challenge. I sit here as a pastor and I take those punches. It's very much important, you know, because church should be a school of life, you know, and when we talk of religion today, being used to oppress, being used to leave people out, you know, I always say it's like buying bread in a plastic bag and then you eat the whole thing. You eat the bread and the plastic. You know, that is why we've come to where we hate ourselves. Like you dressed, now you have put your animal skin I love that because you always do it. And guess what? I have a concept, I call it a culture day, which culminates to a royal night. And it's the church that said strike is demonic, because he puts on animal skin and all that. Because somehow we have been, religion is a divider, religion is oppressive, religion is the source of many wars that we have in the world today, But that is why Jesus, when he came, he did not bring religion. He came to enforce relationships. You look at the people that came closer to him, you name them prostitutes, you name them whoever, they were comfortable around him because he brought something about a relationship and about being neighborly. But that I really take it, and that is why through Bold Moves Radio and different programs that we have, it's a responsibility of the church. It's my responsibility as a pastor, and I have to rise up and even encourage other pastors so that we are not seen to be addressing questions that are not being asked. There are societal ills, societal issues, challenges that we should be proactive, having programs that are addressing those things so that we are able to, I always say, somehow I found myself in the city of Polokwane having a church here. But I preached in the rural communities growing up in the Lord. But I hear many pastors saying, yeah, when you did well because you started a church in town, there is money. And I say, hey, a church should not be positioned where we think there is money, but a church should be in a community that is poor, a community that is sick, but must transform the community. To show that there is the light, the community must come to where people have got jobs, people went to school. Why? Because of the church, So it's true that, the church also has missed it, dismally so. And I don't sit here to defend the church, but I sit here to also seek to redeem the church so that through works we do something that brings about a difference. That is why when I see young men in the community doing something, when I see people, and even in the church, we have got programs that we are grooming a boy child, where we sit with our children, with our boys, not only our boys, but even with our girls, fathers coming together with their girls, sitting with our girls, talking to our girls, listening to them, which is very, very much important. The church has been very instrumental, like Prof said, back then. It was also a hiding place, a city of refuge for freedom fighters. And it must be a city of refuge, even for those that are buffeted of all sorts of addictions and all sorts of things. That is why, as the church, we have to position ourselves to really do that. So I take that, Mhluri, I take that, and then Zwak, I take it. Prof, you are very right. We really need to, because you see, as the church, you are in the community. You see the ills of society, and you don't seek, it's not come when you are clean. It's come as you are, and let's have programs that are able to empower, to uplift, to rehabilitate, to strengthen. So really, I take that challenge, and I take it also to my brothers. Mr. Tabang, one other thing that I also love, and I believe we should also go back to, is sports, because anything that is able to bring us together, and more especially a boy child, we should ride on that particular thing. And we should also believe that some will live by their talents. Their talents, it's what is going to make them conquer the world. Tabang, we applaud you, man. We have our dead prof here, and he gave us a picture of where 76 youth were like and what they were fighting for. And he says to us, hey, it's not achieved. Let's keep on fighting. And what do you have as a comment? What do you have as a question? And what would you love to share to us, more especially looking at the sport side of things where, just a team, you've got over 10 guys, you've got 12 or 14, you've got a lot of people. So that is a church. That's another church. And I love what Mzwake does, going to initiation schools and train and teach. And you are holding that very sensitive one. And also, I think it's a space where we have to also bring financial literacy and a lot of things, and helping our boys, even when they are talented, so that they are able to manage their finance and things like that, and grow and become big and retire well. Brother, let's hear you, my friend.
Thank you for the platform, Pastor. Again, thank you to everyone, and greetings, protocol observed. I'd like to start with a verse in the Bible that says, your gift shall make room for you amongst great kings. So what I believe in is that people think that if you want to serve the kingdom of God, you have to be a pastor or be in the church, forgetting that your pulpit is your strength. So I regard sports as my pulpit. That's where I preach, that's where I serve. So as much as I create opportunities for the young boys, that means I'm saving souls, because now I've got the grace. So saving young souls, it means I can easily marshal them to God by what they love. So, you know, it's a strategy in a sense that it's always a battle between the light and the darkness. The devil has strategies and is constantly renewing his strategies, because now, lately, he gets into the souls of our kids through cartoons. Most people will say, I'm watching cartoons, but they're not sure, they're not aware what's happening. So even with us, who's in the kingdom, we should actually save souls with our strengths. So that's where we'll get them in terms of what they love. So the reason why I went into skills development, the difference is between an academy and why I called it skills development. I'm going to take you through a story. Sorry to take time, but I'm just going to take you through a story in the past. I was in Spain one day and I asked God, I'm going to go back to South Africa soon. And what do you want me to do? And then the answer he gave me said, I want you to save my future generation. And then I had to think, what is he saying? And then he said to me, open a skills development program. A skills development program, meaning we're targeting all the spheres of life. We're targeting social, we're targeting financial, we're targeting spiritual, we're targeting mental. So it's not all about football. I'm using football to get them into that. So I'm bringing all this, the sports field is by Assam. So I'm letting them into that platform where I can hit them, because once they're in there, that it means I have control over them. So that's my pulpit, that's my ministry, that's my church. So the skills development, I said to the boys, everyone can open an academy, everyone can bring kids 20 plus or whatever and play and say, let's play matches. But now, how do you teach a boy to become? You know, so it's the why. Hence, I said I'm going to start at 5, because at 5, that's when you need to basically channel them into the right direction. So with me, I'm also, there's one thing that I forgot to mention. There's this forum called the Community Policing Forum. It's called the CPF. So they're working hand in hand with the police. So now they've started, I'm the chairperson of the Youth Policing Forum. So now, whereby we're talking about the main part of the awards was social ills. So now I came to understand, like Umhluri said, the main people, the main perpetrators are the youth. I once told the brigadier of a police station, he's a general of the police station, general, there's no use taking them and throwing them into jail because they're going to come out and do the same thing. But what is the reason? Unemployment, they're suffering, like this situation is different at home. So we need to get deeper than that. And the one thing I said, as everyone alludes, I said the core and the role players in this will be the spiritual leaders. So we need to bring the churches. There's a pastor who said, there's no way that when there's a church in a community, there should be so much crime. So generally, whether it's in sports, it's in business, the general, we need the spiritual leaders amongst us. So the main reason, again, why I went that direction, because I'm still 33, I can play till 36 or 40, but there's an agency in terms of saving our youth.
Yes.
Because our youth have derailed. There's there's an agency. So I don't think one day I'll have peace when I go to heaven and I sit down and say I was pursuing my career. Because sometimes God does sacrifice. So I have to sacrifice the rest of my playing days so that I can save the souls, youth, through sports. Hence, I'm developing this kind of programs. As much as I want to develop my country, I feel that our leaders are failing us in terms of helping us evolve as well. Now, I'm not saying foreign countries are better than us, but in terms of taking care of the youth at that development, because I say the crucial stage because a boy child becomes matured at 15. So the crucial stage is between 12 and 15. So if there's an imbalance in between growing up, going forward, there will never be a man. So imagine, like you said, like you alluded, Pastor, that the youngest child was 13 years who died in Eastern Cape. You see how very devastating it is. So the devil is constantly as young as it is, because even with the generation of Moses, he said, Moses, you can leave Egypt, but leave the children. Why? Because they know that the children, Jesus, they wanted to kill Jesus while he was still a child. So it's very important to us to actually take care and look after those innocent souls, because they're innocent. So for me, I'm introducing them to the kingdom of God so that they can be saved. Growing up, they should know what is wrong and what is right. Now, I think that was my comment going forward in terms of the main reason why I started the skills development.
Yes.
But the question to Prof, in a sense, that of where he comes from. As youth back then, they fought for freedom and they fought for what is right. Fast forward to now, they got it wrong. Where did it go wrong? And why did we come to a point of selfishness? Why did we fight so much? And why did we sacrifice lives so much to come to a point whereby we end up fighting against each other? We end up killing each other. We end up degrading ourselves. So the main reason is that.
Yes, Brataman. Brataman. Okay. We lost Tabang, but Prof, I think the question becomes very clear. After all the sacrifices, after all the, lives were lost in the process. Prof, you also left the country. After being arrested and all that, you left the country, you became a freedom fighter and all that. But now, the very same leaders, the very same crop that laid their lives down, now they've tended to kill each other. They tend to betray the cause which they really took so dear. What can you say about that, Prof?
Thank you very much, Pastor, and thank you. Really identified critical issues.
Prof, we're battling again. We're battling again so badly to hear you. I don't know what is the challenge. It's just so quiet. Even now, as you speak, we cannot hear a thing. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what is it, Prof. we cannot hear you, and we need your wisdom. We need you, Papa, as we close this show. We surely need you. Maybe, Prof, log out and log in again.
Let me try and do that.
Yes. And then as Prof is logging out, I would love to say to you, my guys, thank you so very much, guys. You have been so good. And I would love for us to have a meeting where we'll take this forward. Today, we just touched here and there, but I would love for you to give your parting shots, more especially to young people, specifically to young people, to the youth. What would you love to say? And Mzwakhe, I want to start with you.
Well, I think Prof is back.
Yeah, I think Prof is back. Let's hear if we can hear Prof. Yes, Prof. Yo. Hi, Prof.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Prof.
Okay. First, I was saying both Mzwakhe and Thabang have really hit the nail.
Yes.
Where it hit, you know? Issues of a child. I think it's one of the issues that we tend to neglect, making sure that we really encourage our boy child and sell off the social cohesion that we're talking about. Why today we are challenged about issues of GBV, we are challenged, about issues of Nyaupe, because we've sort of forgotten about the boy child and we're focusing somewhere else. Linked to that, Mzwakhe talks about the issue of the culture. We always tend to sort of confine culture to our traditions. Culture covers a lot of things. It covers the food that we eat. It talks about the issue of the language. It talks about the issues of dress. It talks about the issues of our tradition. It talks about sports as well. All that is culture, right?
Yes.
And therefore, we need to talk about that all the time to make it a point that we produce, right, this solid individual who understands where we come from in terms of culture. The other thing mentioned, Mzwakhe, is the issue of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Who knows about those, right, in the country? We don't talk about them, right? Those goals even address issues of climate change, issues of education, issues of women development, a ton of other issues that have to do with the development of this country. We have our own code, CRISA code, in this country that talks about ESG, issues of environment, issues of social issues, and issues of governance. Because CRISA code itself is linked to the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. This country will be far away if those goals were taught to our kids at school.
Yes.
And we all understand them. Now, back to the issues that Thabang is raising. I'm so happy that you've taken sports as your pulpit, right? Where you bring in the youth, you talk about social issues, you talk about financial issues, and you talk about spiritual issues as well, right? Those are so important. And it's also linked to what Pastor said, that Jesus Christ did not come here to only talk about religion, but he also came to enforce relationships. This is what Thabang is doing. Enforcing the issues of relationship and neighborliness, right? Because we talk social cohesion. We talk about issues of CPF as well. Policing forum, right? Where we take care of our communities. Can you see issues are integrated?
Yes.
And therefore, Utabang is also right by saying, we as spiritual leaders, right, wherever we are in our churches, in our communities, we need to push social cohesion, to look at issues that Tabang has identified. Now, the question, Tabang, where did you get it wrong? Why are we finding ourselves where we are? With youth that takes Nyaupe, that gets involved in alcoholism, that gets involved in gender-based violence. And the answer is simple. Terms of leadership.
Oh, yes.
Our leaders betrayed us. Our leaders have not instilled the issues of patriotism in the country, right? You know, if you look at the US, patriotism is started at the lowest levels of education. There's a pledge around the flag. There's a pledge about being American. South African, you don't have that, right? There is no patriotism. We've never prepared our youth to have a pledge to say, I'm a South African and I will defend this country at any time. Doesn't happen. People cut copper, broad daylight, nobody cares. We walk around, we see them, we say nothing. So Tabang, there's a lack of patriotism. We've missed it as leadership. We've never mobilized our kids to be South African and to be proud of being South Africans. We just lost it there. They just see themselves as independent, right? As people who can just do their own thing on the other side. They don't see themselves as part of their community, right? As part of a nation that is called South Africa, as part of the global market or the global, institution as a whole, right? As I was saying earlier on, it is the type of the education that we sit with. It totally disempowers our people, right? Not long ago, my grandson went to write an exam for a bursary. With a friend. He came back and I was asking them, hey, how did it go? I said, yes, it was so mathematics, science, biology, everything was good. Hey, general knowledge, performed well there. Then I said, what were the questions in general knowledge? They said, one of the questions was, who's the president of Zimbabwe? And they couldn't respond to that. So you can see the shortcoming of the type of education that we have, right? Sort of focuses somewhere else. It doesn't produce this whole individual who understands himself or herself as a citizen and also as a part of a global society. Yes.
Yeah.
So these are the issues, Tabang. Lack of patriotism. We don't build that responsibility in our children to say, you are a South African, right? The assets that you see around here, they are yours, right? We used to see people burning trains because they believe that these trains still belong to some boer somewhere. These are our assets. Those trains now, we don't see them moving anywhere.
Yes.
And we saw guys cutting the cable, cutting the rail, destroying the stations in front of our eyes.
Yes.
Did we defend our assets? No.
No.
So your answer, Tabang, lies in the issues of patriotism.
Yes.
You work in terms of making sure that the pulpit that you are using, that those social issues, the financial issues, as well, is important. Let us therefore continue to preach that language. Let's continue to make it a point that we implant patriotism in children and in our youth. Thank you.
Prof, thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. And we're glad that now the audio is good. I would love to take this time and say to my panelists, great young men, great legends, guys, what would you love to say to your brothers, to your sisters today? Just in one word or in a statement or in a sentence, what would you love to say to them before we let Prof sum it up for us? Starting with you, Mr. Mzwake Mahlangu, what would you love to say?
Thanks, Mfundisi. I would like to say to our counterparts that education liberates our intellect and it unlocks our imagination, fundamentally, Prof, for self-respect, knowing who we are. Because by that, you would know that you are an African. And as Prof says, an Africanism, it addresses a lot of issues, a lot of your attire, everything. It addresses us, that you will take care of each other, we would know your brother. So I would say, let us learn to learn to our brother.
Yes. Thank you so very much, Mr. Mzwake. Really appreciate, guys. I know we did not do justice to what you have, but this is your platform. We're going to continue here. And Brother Thabang, what would you love to say to the youth, you know, to our brothers, to our sisters? Because surely we have to arise with the NEHEMIAH phenomenon. We have to arise and build so that we are no more a reproach.
You know, I'd always like to refer to the word of which Jesus says the biggest of them all is love. So if we can give each other love and care about each other, I think we'll go forward. But I'd like to put it on to us, the youth who knows what is right, to keep on striving, because now the same energy it takes to complain and give up is the same energy we can stand up and make a difference. I believe somewhere, somehow, we achieve what we want to achieve, because heaven rejoices, one soul is being saved. So it starts with one. Now that we are here together, because the word says, when one or more are gathered in my name, I am present.
Yes.
And God sent his 12 disciples to go out 2 by 2. So now we are the disciples. We should go 2 by 2 and go out there and keep knocking and do what is right. At the end of the day, we will achieve what we want to achieve, because if each of us can save one soul, that means there will be a lot, and that one soul will go save the other. At the end of the day, we'll have generations being saved, because like you alluded at the summit, that if things continues like now, we'll have no generation. But for us, we have a big responsibility upon our shoulders. And with the backing of God, with the backing of each other, I think we'll achieve it. And in our different spheres, I believe that it's achievable. And with great leaders like yourselves, Pastor and Prof, with your guidance, I believe that we'll go there being guided and we'll achieve it.
Thank you so very much, Thabang. Really appreciate. Like I said, guys, we'll have this thing going. This conversation must keep going. We really need to run this crusade and get more and more of our brothers and sisters moving. To my friend right in the studio, Mhluri, what would you love to say to the youth, even as we part shots this evening?
Firstly, I'd like to thank you very much for this platform. I am truly honored and humbled to be part of a panelist of this magnitude and stature. And then I believe that everything has already been touched on, and I have received a lot and I've gained a lot. And in closing, I believe we should pursue and follow the scripture of Hosea 4 verse 6 that says, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. And for that very reason, I shall not appoint them to be priests. So I believe that as young people, let us pursue knowledge, let us pursue wisdom, so we can be great representation of the Almighty Lord. We cannot change or even be patriotic without knowledge. And also in the words of our professor, let us be patriotic, let us love this great nation, and let us be the embodiment that the future generations will aspire to become. Nakens.
Thank you so very much, Mhluri. Really appreciate. Mani and Mr. or Mrs. Mukhano, thank you so very much for having been with us. You have been our audience also, together with the audiences on Facebook, on YouTube, and also on Bold Moves Radio. Prof, the youth of 2022 have spoken. That is why I say the future is great. When I look at these legends, I'm so encouraged. We are getting somewhere. It's not all lost. And with your mentorship, Prof, with your help, with your coaching, surely we're getting somewhere. And would love for you, Prof, to sum it up and give your parting shots while I take this time to appreciate you dearly. We've taken way more than what we budgeted for, and we know we inconvenience programs when we do this, but we thought it is very much important, and the glitches of the load shedding have contributed a great deal in delaying us. But we just want to say, Prof, thank you so very much. I want to believe my friends here, they'll never be the same, because you have given them your shoulders to stand on, and they can see further. And I know they are going to do exploits. Prof, your parting shots as we appreciate you and thank you tonight.
Thank you very much, Pastor Strike. These are great legends. Thank you for this initiative. I thank you for bringing this wonderful youth who are here today, who demonstrated their skills, their commitment to this country. I am so delighted. John 14, verse 15, God says, if you love me, you will obey my covenant. And the covenant that we have to obey today is the covenant that was demonstrated by Jesus Christ himself. Force the relationships. Preach about the issues of neighborliness, patriotism, as I was talking about earlier on. And I also want to go back a little bit to what Mhluri said earlier on, of making sure that we decolonize our education.
Yes.
Decolonize. What we have done.
I didn't catch that. Could you try again?
Sorry, there's a gadget
interfering somewhere. What we have done really in our education as well to do away with all those artisan schools, right? Just because we want everybody to have a degree. That is a serious disaster. We want an education that should build artisans as well. Electricians, plumbers, bricklayers, motor mechanics, if you look into what is happening today, all those skills that I'm talking about are owned by foreigners in this country.
True.
They are the who are electricians, who are plumbers, right? Who are bricklayers, right? Motor car mechanics. Where are we as South Africans? All of us want to have a degree to be unemployed.
Sure.
Mhluri, you are so right. Let us continue with the process of making sure that we decolonize this education and make it an education that produces entrepreneurs, right? Not job seekers. Of course, we are not saying that everybody is going to be an entrepreneur. There are those who are going to branch into academia, than those who are going to be branching into being artisan, as I'm already said, right? But we need to make it a point that our education is transformed. Therefore, I'm happy that we've got a youth that's thinking the same as I'm thinking. You are busy writing around the issues of education, rethinking of the issues of Black consciousness as well, because that's where we came from. We were conscientized, right, as the youth, so that we become the leaders of the future. And as we've said, we've played that role as leaders. Now we want to leave it to you as the future leaders to take this country forward. I thank you very much. Did we lose the studio?